Naming your digital product goes somewhere between naming your firstborn child and finding a band name that isn't lame or taken. It's somewhere in the middle. It's difficult. You want it to be catchy, clear, maybe clever, conversation friendly, not too long, not too short, descriptive without being on the nose. So there's a lot goes into this. But luckily I have 4 shortcuts for you to figure out the best name for your next digital product. Based on me having done digital products for 15 years, I've sold all sorts of digital products and I had to name each and every one. And I've also named quite a few programs and products for my wife's organization, Startup Tucson. So here's 4 ways that I've found to be useful when I'm brainstorming names and coming up with names for digital products. Number 1, use a thesaurus to find all of the different words that come close to describing what your product is about. Now, that's not only about the topic of the product. Like, for instance, in my case, I run a business in the music industry and the audio production space. And so a lot of my products are around vocals, drum mixing, production, templates, mixing, mastering, and things like that, making music sound better. So I would go to rhymezone.com. That's actually my favorite thesaurus online. And I just find all of the different synonyms and all of the different ways to describe the topic at hand, because I don't know all of this stuff off the top of my head. So I will just look it up and see what comes my way, and then I'll put it all down for later for safekeeping. And I'll have basically create a repository of different words that I can maybe put together. And sometimes maybe your name might come super fast just from that. But don't just look at the words for the topic around what your niche is, but also look at the words and the adjectives of what you are trying to achieve. Is your product trying to help them do something faster, more productive? Is it a framework? Is it a step-by-step process? Are you trying to make them healthier? Are you trying to make them richer? Are they trying to eat better? Like, all of these things, all of these sort of phrases and words, put them all down on a Google Doc or on a piece of paper if you like writing things down in real life. But that becomes your big ass list of words that you can pull from, mix and match, and sometimes that name will instantly come from that. For instance, 3 of my product names came from this sort of word association brainstorm. It's the Drum Mix Toolkit, which, as the name implies, gives you a toolkit for mixing drums. The Expert Home Vocals program, just called Expert Home Vocals, and that helps musicians and producers make better vocal productions. And then the Easy Mix Approach. Step number 2, use acronyms. If you have a complicated program or a product, and when you put it all down on a piece of paper, it basically takes up the entire piece of paper and it will never roll off the tongue well, then maybe there's some opportunity there to create an acronym. Acronyms allow you to put a lot of information into something that is memorable. For instance, I was at a lunch once with the Startup Tucson team, and we were trying to come up with a name for their investor program. There was interest in investors that are lower than the angel level, just sort of like the people that have a little extra money lying around and they wanted to invest in the community in some way. And they wanted to make an educational program to help people understand investing fundamentals. And so we went through the first thing. I went and got all these different words, like investment, investor, angel, all these different terms that we use for investing, money, growth, all this sort of stuff. And then we finally settled on an acronym, RAIN. The Rising Arizona Investor Network. Now, the Rising Arizona Investor Network is pretty long, but as an acronym, it actually took on a mind of its own because it had multiple different meanings. Because we were in the desert and rain makes things grow, and we couldn't live in this desert without rain, monsoon season, and things like that. And it also had connotations to investment. Rain, making it rain, throwing money into the air, making it rain. Who doesn't relate to that? And so by using this acronym, we were actually able to name the program, but also give that name a larger meaning outside of just the acronym itself. So if you've got a framework or a process like a SMART goals or something like that, see if you can turn it into an acronym, because it'll make it sound more official, add kind of instant credibility to your process. And then tip number 3, use alliteration, because we sort of love the poetic nature of something that rolls off the tongue easily like that. Alliteration is great for that. We're suckers for something that sounds like it should be inside a Dr. Seuss book. For instance, I have a flagship course called the Mix Finisher Formula. You could have a podcast profit playbook if you were trying to help podcasters monetize their business. Or you can have a client closer kit. Some other alliteration examples from my own products are the customer canvas and the audience amplifier. And this is where your repository of words from the first tip comes in handy, because go through all of those words, and if you can fit them together and use alliteration, you're double trouble. It'll be even better. It'll sound better. It'll roll off the tongue easier, and it hopefully will be very descriptive. And maybe that's the name that you will have, and then you're done. You can turn off this video, but not before subscribing and liking and hitting that notification button, of course. But going through the word brainstorm from the beginning, using alliteration or acronyms might help you find something that works for you. And then tip number 4 is simple. Just ask your audience. I did this with step-by-step mixing. I had a Facebook group at the time, and I threw out a few different names. I was trying to figure out what this book should be called after I'd written it. And I came up with maybe 3 to 5 names, and I just put a poll together, and then I had them vote on it. And the title that had the most votes simply became the title of the book, and that's Step-by-Step Mixing. It's a very descriptive title. It lays out the results very easily. It promises a very easy process and approach, and it's most definitely one of the reasons why this book became so popular. And remember that your name doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to make sense, have some form of result inside of it. It has to be descriptive of what you are trying to sell transformation wise, and just has to sound good, maybe roll off the tongue, not too long, not too short. Don't spend too long thinking about it. Just test it out. You can actually always rename your product if it doesn't work. If you really think the name is what is causing your sales to flatline, usually it's the offer and the promise of the transformation that is the cause of the lack of sales, not the name of your product. So make sure that you spend 90% of your time selling the product, 10% of your time, if that, naming it. So if you are working on a product but you don't have a name yet, I'd love to know where you're at in that journey. I'd love to help you brainstorm. That actually is one of my favorite things to do, is to come up with names for products. So please leave a comment and let me know what you're working on, and we can brainstorm something together in the comments. All right, I hope you found those 4 tips useful. Please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button once again, and I'll see you later.